Dad.
Hi, Louie.
You think you know a guy. You know, you talk with him about games and life, and then you just find out he's a mass murderer.
You know, like, sometimes you have to take big risk in life, right? And last night was big risk for me, and it didn't pay off this time. But
big risk, low reward.
Yeah, but you know, I gotta try baby food for the first time.
How was that?
This one's a little gross, but
is that what they serve in? I think that's what they serve in jail, right? Like that is what they give people.
Last night was good. That was a strawberry banana. Today is a pears, peas, and carrots, and it's not as tasty. But
I don't know about veggies and fruit.
But I don't want to waste it. You know, like I bought it, so I don't want to like waste the product.
You don't know when your next meal will be, quite honestly.
Yeah, jail's a scary place. Can you break me out soon so I can come back to podcasting?
We have to bring in our lovely guest. But in a few words, how's jail going?
Jail is scary. It's dark. There's a man who keeps asking for library books. I'm not really sure what he wants with those library books.
Perhaps to read them.
Perhaps. But yeah, let's bring everyone else in.
Okay. Let's bring in our panel. Jordan, Rory, Dan, Mr. Green, Marg, Eli, Katie, Gracie. How are you all doing?
Doing well.
I'm doing great.
Killers were exposed.
Really fun.
Again.
I am so curious. I mean, last night was such an interesting game that I'm sure none of you expected to partake in at all. I mean, let's start at the very beginning. The murder mystery subplot of the deaths of Joe the Show, TR, Mallory. What was everyone thinking going in? Like, justice for Mallory, always. What were we all thinking going in after seeing the videos, and what did we expect this to be?
I guess I was expecting, just because of all of the hype, that there would be a lot of like really big names in the community who would apply, and I think that was true. So I went into the game with really, really low expectations of just trying to get to having one confessional was like my goal for the night. And I made it further than that, so I don't even know. But
confessionals, though, I feel like last night the lowest amount of confessionals we've ever seen. No confessionals.
No time for confessionals. You gotta
get any time.
No.
I didn't know what to expect. I knew it was going to be big. I watched the Mole Mini earlier this week, and I was like, oh, maybe it might be something based off of that, where there's a few different killers working together. But how it played out, no idea. And but it was wild to see the teases going up to it. I think it really made everyone who was playing in the game want to bring it just as hard. So I thought it was a fun lead up.
I wasn't necessarily convinced that it was going to be like a killer among us in the cast. I thought maybe like we would be working together to try and solve the mystery throughout the course of the night as we're voting people out. But I guess that wasn't right.
Yeah, I think like Mark said, I mean, half the reason I applied was because I was like, I like a good bit, right? So when I saw his costumes, I'm like, well, I gotta do that. And then I'm like, the more I was hearing about things, I'm like, there's gonna be a lot of people. I think there's gonna be a lot of big names in this. Like, I didn't get to play in an all-star game, so it was like, to me, this was like, and I think it was like, I think this was an all-star game. Like, this is an iconic cast, and I said that to you guys separately, but so I applied for those reasons, and then I didn't think too much about the murder mystery part, honestly, and that's on me. Is like, I genuinely thought this is just gonna be a Sequester with like maybe a twist of a murder, like maybe there's one round where there's like a murder thing. But I thought, and like I genuinely, like, and we'll get more into it, but like I generally like the concept a lot. Like, I think it is a cool concept, and I hope like even the first time players had fun with it. It definitely like apply again, play Sequester, because it wasn't Sequester, but it was a cool format for what it was.
We must discuss this very briefly as we. They froze. Never mind. Continue.
Echoing Jordan and Tommy, it was the exact same thing for me. We're going into it. I thought it was going to be themed of like a slasher, like for Christmas in July or Night of the Living Dead or Emo Night, that there was just going to be a theme and we were going to come dressed up and that there was going to be like elements like that around it. So when it was revealed that it was very different, that did throw me for a loop, and that I started to think about it in a way similar to a private game I'm currently like accepting applications for, where there's a similar-ish concept.
Ooh.
Full transparency for me, I applied because I actually had the gap in my schedule. My job doesn't really let me play Sequester. I literally clocked out at 7 o'clock, busted my ass home, threw on makeup, and was told I was going to be a killer, but I'm getting a little ahead of myself there.
Wow.
Oh, God. So I just applied because it was something fun. Like, I just wanted to play. Like, I've been watching and I'm huge fans of all of you. And as it got revealed last night, Stark is my husband. So he's been like, please play, come on, you can do this. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, but I just really wanted to play. And then when we got in there and they were like, this is not a regular Sequester game, I was like, so everything that I was told to like think about is on its head. Like, I guess I'm just gonna talk to people and see what happens. But I came in thinking, okay, so we're just gonna get the twists are gonna help us figure out at the end, and then when we get whoever gets to the end gets to like make a guess or something. But I had a lot of fun, even though it was my first time. Like I really feel like I got to know the characters as opposed to like trying to make alliances and look for LOSs. Like, I had a really good time.
Hi, friends. Look at that. We love to see it.
Hey, everyone.
A man, a doctor, and a gremlin come together.
Ooh.
That does seem like a pretty odd.
Ontario meetup.
There you go. Wait, where in Ontario?
You gonna go join them?
Yeah, I'm like not that far away. But
All right. So what I want, I guess first things first, I did want to go into the whole selection process for the killers and kind of discuss that a little bit, because I know a lot of people were curious how Dad and the judge got picked and what your initial thoughts were for strategy as to how you were going to tackle things. But what were your initial thoughts when you found out, I mean, I guess legitimately right before the game, that you were going to be in this spot?
Yeah, so for me, oh, you go, right.
Okay, sorry. For me, I kind of felt like with the character I was playing, even if it was normal Sequester, I was not going to have any chance at winning. Like, I was just here to have a good-ass time, and I had a ton of fun, like, and I felt like I would have fun if I was on the other side of the twist, but I don't know. My thought was I wanted to keep people on their toes. I didn't want people to try and see a pattern or maybe try and make a pattern where there wasn't, was my ideal thought. So, like, first one, I was like, just do it fucking random. Next one, do a name that's been going out, random out, random out, random out, and try and make sure it's different spots on the board too. Because I think at one point somebody brought up, it's like, it's only the far right that's going. So I'm like, okay, let's maybe pick off some from the left now, shall we?
I thought the same thing. And for me, yeah, I mean, definitely. So I think. And like I made a post last night that kind of explained a little bit, and I didn't do that to like attack the concept or attack Audrey. It literally was, and I don't think she took it that way, but it was literally just more of, I was getting, you know, as the first person that got out that was the killer. I feel like I got a lot of, you know, I said it this morning to the chat. I was like, it felt like Lucy, like, you got some explaining to do, and so for me it was more of, no, I didn't sign up to be the killer. None of us, we all signed up to play Sequester. And literally, I showed up late, and so then it's like I'm like already late to the chat, and then she calls me, and I think it's because like I made a joke about my tech. I was like, because I was being dad, and I was like, sorry, my tech's all weird, and she calls, and I'm like, oh, she thinks my tech's really bad. I'm like, Audrey, I swear, like I'm good, like I was just making a joke, and she's like, no, I need to actually talk to you. You're the killer, and yeah.
That's exactly why. Okay, so. Dad and I were in the same starting room, and even though we were backstage, we kept being told we're waiting for our last person before we get going. We're waiting for them. And then it, like, somehow it got revealed that it was you. Like, oh, Dad's here now. Dad, we're going to try your tack out or something like that. And I was like, oh, that's weird. And then a couple rounds in, I got thinking like, ooh, what if that's why he was late? Was because he's the killer? But I felt like that was such a shit reason to bring up to everybody. Like, he was late getting Owing, so let's get votes on him.
I thought about that too. I was like, when she said that, I was like, I might get clocked just because you guys would like. It's something that I was thinking about. Is like they know I'm late, but yeah. So like we found out that we're the killer, and like the way she brought it was like she talked to us individually and then brought us in as together, and it was like essentially I knew then that it was a very hard chance to win, right? Like I had to change my perspective. I went in like thinking I might have a chance to win. You know, you always do, right? But I always go in to play to have fun, and like after that, I'm like, maybe I still have a chance, but I'm like, let me just bit this up. Like I just need to like for me, this is now about fun only, fun times, dad times, you know, and so it just changed my perspective, and then. Yeah, we had a group chat, and so me and Rory voted in that group chat. We could text each other, so like there was times where we only texted when we were backstage because like obviously we didn't want to look sus, and like but we like if Rory heard my name, he would let me know. If I heard his, like it was like we were able to communicate that way, which was like it was a cool like there was definitely I don't want to say like there was no chance for us to win because we had a lot of benefits in some ways, but then in other ways there was a lot of hindrance to, and the fact that we had a 2-1, you know, like there's 2 chances to win. I think the way she did it did even the playing field in some way, you know. It's like I said, I think it's a fascinating idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, looking at it from the outside, I definitely think we were thinking that it would be hard for the killers to win in the long run, just because when the numbers dwindle, I mean, there's so few options, and you have to imagine that the majority of those people will be voted for at some point, that there's only so many suspects that could possibly be left. So I felt like it was a very, very difficult task to try to maneuver that and somehow get there. It seemed like a lot of the times the same name was being pushed. Was that something that you were actually thinking? Because I had a feeling like Prince was voted at least in the majority in like 3 different rounds.
I think what happens there in like a regular murder mystery, you're getting new information as an audience member to be able to solve it. And that we weren't getting new information was made it challenging, where I think had we been able to find out who the person that was guessed each round was, that would have given us the additional information to make the deductions more easily.
And that would have, yeah, but in doing that, like it gives the killers no chance.
No chance. Yeah.
Yeah. But I wish, and that was like part of it. I think at first it was like when the truth, it was like it was clear. Like, I think at the first couple of rounds, it was clear who the majority was. But I think once more names started to get added to the list of doubt, right? There was a point where there was like at least like 6 or 7 names going out there. And so like as the killer, it was easy to be like, oh no, Prince wasn't the majority, because I was hearing the lawyer a lot too. Like it's like I think everyone did the lawyer. I don't think people did the Prince as much as you think. So like it made my job easier that there was like more ambiguity, if that makes sense. But I just pushed.
I inadvertently did the same strategy, but just for like preservation of myself, because I was like, everyone's gonna think Nicole's the killer. Of course Nicole's the killer. So of course I was sitting there being like, I need to make sure that if my name is out there, I want to make sure that it could have been in the majority, so but it could, like, there's still ambiguous like waters there. Was she in the majority? Was she not? Because then the killers would keep me around. Because I would be a shield, but if I was ever in the clear majority, the killers would get rid of me. So it was one of those situations that I was trying to do, but I never realized like that could be helping the killers a lot too.
This is jumping a little, but I love my favorite moment with Beth was like, I think it was the alien was like, I already was thinking Prince is like the purple thing. Like this is way later, but alien was like, maybe it's Prince. And then Beth was like, yeah, it's Prince. Like, with the ring in the hair. It makes sense. And I'm sitting here like, yeah, you're right. Like you got it.
Like I went back, I watched that clip because somebody clipped it, and I just went, hair! Like so obnoxiously. I'm like ridiculous. But no, it was I was having so much fun just trying to figure out what are clues and are we even deciphering them correctly? Like it was so much fun. I still don't know what the clues were. I want to know what the clues were.
I wonder if they tried this again in the future, if there's some way of balancing it so that like Audrey could tell us how many votes were in the majority without telling us who got the majority. And that way we could at least have some idea if it was like a total shit show of a round, or if we're like, okay, it seems like we got 7 or 8 votes on Prince, so we can move on from that. Because I think that's why we ended up re-voting people over and over, is that we're like, well, I think we got a majority, but I'm not sure, so I guess I want to make really sure that this person has been sussed out.
Yeah.
I voted Prince 3 times in a row because I just wasn't ever sure if we ever got the majority of the votes on them.
Prince.
Ever. I do too.
It made so much sense. The hair, Purple Rain.
When I feel like if there's a way to give us a little bit more, that makes it a little bit more like Clue, where you can kind of deduct just a little bit easier. Because I do feel like that was hard. That was kind of the harder part about trying to figure out who you got, because we didn't know which clues were.
Yeah, for that
the
first
majority.
round, it was pretty obvious, I think, that the truth was the person everybody voted for. But when the second round was announced as highest even, I knew that there was like no way we were ever going to find out who the actual person was. So the round was essentially a crapshoot because we couldn't actually know who had been guessed. And that was the really challenging part.
I was a dumbass, and I was like, the round that we figured Prince was the second highest majority vote. So I'm going, everybody vote Prince. No, so then then Audrey comes on and says, remember, it's the second highest votes, and submit your votes now. And I went, I guess I'm voting for Cheetah here. See if I can get enough votes on Cheetah. But yeah, it was weird.
And I was going to say, in terms of clues, like I said, I did actually write them down so I can try and be like, oh, maybe this was and this wasn't. Because I did actually write them knowing that Dad and I were the killers.
Yeah.
And like, so with the clues too, I think like, I don't think they had it necessarily. Like, I know someone was saying like in the YouTube chat, they were like, oh, purple is a clue. I don't want, maybe production did think of that stuff. I think they almost did it after, like, because we put the connection of like it's blinking. I think they were like, let's ride this, and like, yeah, this is a thing now. Because they were able to be like, no, Tommy does have purple because of the stupid baby. I love you, Oprah. And but
like, I will say one of my favorite moments of the entire night was Mr. Green finally at the end screaming, "The baby's purple!" I feel like that is the moment of the night.
I never thought Mr. Green would turn on me. My Sequester dad.
Yeah, I was just happy my dad finally came home.
We got dark real quick.
Mr. Green was a dark
Trying
light.
to keep with the theme here, dark themes.
So let's go into the rounds a little bit. So the first round resulted in the elimination of Brad Exotic. I think the big question was this meant to set up Carolanna initially as the killer? Because that's where everybody's mind went when Brad Exotic got murdered. Was there any thought behind that?
I'm just checking right now, like our chat. I'm pretty sure we were just like, let's just do a random. Let's go random completely. And we're like, let's just do Brad. Why not?
For me, it was a little more like I thought it would, I'm friends with Julianna. I thought that it would help her a little bit if I separated them. So there was a part of me that wanted Brad out for that. And then also on top of that, it did create, in what you're saying of, it did suss her a little bit so that at least the accusations would go on to her. There was that part, but I also agree with Roy. It was kind of like, I didn't see Brad a lot. Like all this was part of it, right? Like, it's like, it was a random person.
I didn't see him at all the whole game, like at all.
It was a random person that wasn't mentioned at all, so that that first vote is the hardest vote, right? Because the other ones we could base it off the accusations and stuff, but that first vote you just had to choose something.
Mm-hmm.
So when we moved to that, I think I would like to comment also on Audrey's descriptions of the deaths of everyone, because they were so twisted and so fantastic. And I
feel like that was all Albie. So
that actually makes sense. That was
I found it so upsetting and distressing. Like, I never want to play a murder mystery mini again because like I can't take it. Like, I had nightmares last night. It's not for me.
You can't
I had to pretend to be shocked. Like, I wasn't really listening at the descriptions, but I like didn't want to look sus. So every time I was just like, oh no, like murder, oh, gasp, baby, no. Like,
I was also trying to be in character. After a while, I started crying at every single one.
Yeah. I will say,
I did
Nicole
this
Franzel,
when I
Nicole
died.
Franzel, never more likable than she was last night. That was the Sequester crowd came out liking Nicole Franzel more.
I wonder if she'll
I
talk
vote
about her
for helping her game in BB22 if there's ever an America's vote. Just saying.
I was gonna say, I wonder if she's gonna talk about her Sequester experience now that like on the feeds,
Honestly,
maybe.
That's what she should do. You know, try to garner some more love and appreciation. She was definitely more open to other people last night than she was in the house.
I did receive confirmation. Purple was not a clue. It was a Halloween color. It was a fun Halloween color.
Thanks a lot, Dan.
Sorry, Oprah.
Cheyenne dresser, is that what you want, Dan? Is that how you want her out of purple?
Please keep the baby dress.
I mean, the way that connected so flawlessly, though, I was just like, oh my God.
The way I came to that is even more weird now because it didn't even mean anything.
It was literally Laura too, because Laura comes into a room and is like, it's purple. Like, we had to vote Cheetah. We have to. The hair. Like,
I was the one who like started it that round because in between the rounds, the YouTube stream was like terrible last night, and that was what tipped me off. So it was in between the rounds of I think Astronaut had just been murdered, and or Special Agent and Astronaut. It was like in between them, and I was looking at the YouTube stream. I noticed that the thing was blinking at me, and I was like, okay, I have a basic understanding of like streaming software. So I knew that like when Audrey does the cast graphic for each game, she has a static image and all of the icons that go on top of it are elements that are overlaid. So I could see that, hey, this thing is flashing. That's clearly an overlay. But there was a split second where the stream buffered as she was moving the icons onto the person who was just eliminated, where I saw that the slime on the left was also an overlay and not an actual static image, where if it wasn't actually doing anything, but it was still an overlay, that meant something to me. And that's where I went, it's purple. Why is the cheetah purple? And that's what I started spreading hardcore that round.
And that's why I knew, like, me and Rory were like, Laura's got to go because, like, it's going to look sus on Cheetah and print. Like, then we could push the purple narrative. I honestly genuinely didn't realize that her joke. Like, I realized that was my downfall. But in that point, I'm like, if Laura goes, it's going to look real sus for everyone, for the purple people.
I actually didn't obviously make the purple connection with Dad, but I did. The only time I had a fleeting moment of Dad in my head was she emphasized the word 3, like from the third story. And it happened a couple times in like the murder clues. And then I went back to my notes and Dad was the third video.
And probably, yeah.
And so in my head, I went, I wonder, because then I was looking, I was like, ooh, well, Cheetah's the third one on the bottom because the third one on the top had already been killed at the point I've been thinking about. I don't know if that was Agent. I don't know if that was you or not. But somebody had been killed, whoever was the third one on the top, but the third one on the bottom was still there. And then it was the third video in the order. So I kept thinking about that kind of thing, but I didn't think it was strong enough.
So the round right before I got voted out, thanks to the council. No, I'm just kidding. The round right before I got voted out, I had been in several rooms with Dad. And we had been talking about like, oh, what from the video? And at one point I said, well, could it be a magical connection? Could it be just like a different connection? And I literally wrote down the round before I got voted out, Dad, because in my head, like I was like, maybe he just got really tired of the baby and went out for a late night and crashed into Mallory. Like he just drove the car into Mallory. And so I wrote down Dad and then I got voted out. So I didn't even get to like do anything. But it's like right here in my notes, I was like, Dad.
See, and it just, again, that's one, like there's some that we just, like that's the thing with the people that I apologize to all mine and Rory's killer victims, but it's we had, but we had a lot of it was covering our tracks. You were one where it was like, I mean, the council just cleared you. The only person that's like 100% cleared at that point. Like
I was hoping to come back after that and do what Mr. Green did and be like, see, I was cleared. It wasn't me. Like, let's go. And nope, didn't even get to. I was like, dang it! But it was so fun. Like, and I see like why that was a good vote to do. Like, I see that why. I would have done the same thing.
Yeah, that was one of our few like no discussions. We're like, well, this one's pretty much they set up the pins. Let's just knock them down real quick. And yeah.
And now I'm a water balloon. Splat!
There was a lot of no discussions. There was a lot like it was like we were both saying the same name. Like Rory, I feel a kinship to you, my boy. Like we got this. Like they'd be like, cool with this person. The one that I regret because in retrospect was Rory went Alien or Mr. Green. They're both like calling out a lot of people, and I went. I couldn't get Mr. Green. I was blinded. I went Alien. And in retrospect, if I take out Mr. Green there, I wonder what would have happened. But I couldn't do it. Look at him. Look at him in that mustache. I trust a man in a mustache.
To be fair, had you said Green, I probably would have been like, I'd rather do Alien.
Yeah, and that makes me feel better.
Yeah.
It was interesting. I was thinking about this as well because I'm thinking about. I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but it's also connects to the beginning. I think I'm one of the few people that actually suspected Rory as in the very first round. I don't remember in our original room. My original room was Black Widow, Mr. Green, Dad, and me. And I don't remember if it was the four of us or if it was when we got room limited or whatever. Someone came in and said, "Oh, it's the truth. That's what everyone's going for." And we had said, well, we need to go for someone who's like really innocent looking. And I was like, well, you wouldn't suspect a judge. And then I got immediately shut. Well, the truth is what we're going for. And I was like, all right. And I just I said judge. And then we immediately just went for truth and whatever. And then there was another round, a few rounds later where Rory was trying too hard to convince. Like, don't you guys think that this looks like a stick and it's his gavel? And he's like, I think she's clearing people through the clues. And I was like, that makes no sense.
Oh my God. I
was like, yeah, Judge, but you were playing up this kind of senile character that I was just like, oh, he's just kind of going for it. So it worked with you but it stuck in my mind. And then when we had the ability to get you out, I knew that it was you because we put the majority of votes on you and you went. Yep. So even though there were flop symbols and everything, it would have been one of the other three of us. And I didn't think there were more votes on anybody else. So I was like, I knew the judge was. And everyone's like, I think it was Ace. I was like, no, it was the judge because of the way the votes went.
And that's what I think is fun is the characters actually worked really well with this because it's everyone seems sus because you're playing like you crying every time or me being it's everything you couldn't tell anyone's general reactions to the murders because everyone was playing a persona, right. Which I found. I do want to address the truth. If you're out there, show yourself. We think we know who you are. we need the truth in the group chat. He is the last member, or he or she. They are the last member.
Was it not Cameron?
We don't know. I can't. I don't know their handle. So we think it's. We think we know who it is.
I sent Cameron's handle.
Okay. Let's add them then because I feel bad for the truth. I didn't want to see the truth in a Patron game because I guess that was generally their first game, and I want to see the truth again because I think they got screwed by a really great costume, but a hard costume to play for this kind of mini.
I was really looking forward to having some kind of fake conflict between Nicole and the truth.
That's pretty good.
That would have been amazing. Yeah, I feel like there was I don't know, watching that video, I was like, oh, there's something to this. There's backstory to the truth. And the truth is doing something bigger than just the game. But we didn't get to see any of it. But I feel like whoever was behind it definitely had a well thought out story as to what it was going to be.
New Podquester podcast, the story of the truth.
What is the truth?
I was mystified. And then they're like, I have fun lights. And I'm like, I need to know more about these lights. Why do they have these lights?
I wrote down 6 lights in the map because I thought there were going to be I wrote down behind ET the 5 strings of lights. I was writing all these things down in case they were clues.
I counted Jordan's cheetah prints spots.
Oh yeah.
I did too, but then at a certain point, there was a certain point where I'm just like, this person. I stopped at I'm and I write down who they are. Most of the people I knew who they were behind them as. So I'd be like, this person. This is, Mr. Green is Dan. And yeah, I don't know. It was what did you guys not to backtrack a little bit, what did you guys think going into your starting rooms and with the concept of being backstage and then obviously we all got a chance to see each other. What did you guys think of that experience?
It was actually like a little crippling to be backstage for the whole first part, because I feel like there is, even with no communication, like an amount of bonding that happens when you're sitting staring at the same group of people for an hour. And so even though like my starting room actually did pretty well throughout the game, I didn't feel like as tight of a connection to them as I normally do in a Sequester game.
I came in and was like, we were like, hi guys. And then it was like, okay, we're good with each other for a little bit. Like, let's go like out. And then, cause Eli was actually in my starting room. He's kind of the only one that I saw again a little bit later that I actually was like, and talked to eventually, that it was like, okay, yeah, we're cool. Like I'm good with this. And he's the only one that I really felt like I actually like got to talk to again and had somewhat of a connection with to be able to work with later. But the other two, like, I feel like I didn't see them as much to be able to make that connection. So I think being backstage made it a little bit more difficult because I couldn't see them, I guess.
And I think that's something that they're trying as mods for even page, like in general, the minis, because I think that is kind of the mindset is like the game should start when the game starts. And so like the mindset is to separate that. But I think it's a fascinating thing. I know for me, it's kind of fun. It was fun when it's like being a mystery, and then like, when we're all like, when with my starting room, it's like we all came on individually. I'm like for me, I was like Ashley, Jordan, and I'm like Beth, and then Dan came on, and I was like, Dad Dan. I'm like, he's here, and then I came on, and like I like found out afterwards. Jalen was like, Mr. Green was like jumping up and down when he saw you jump.
I was so excited. I was so excited. I was so excited the entire
And that's
time.
the one part that I'm like, I wish it was Sequester, because like I wonder what would have happened, because like that starting room, I was like, oh, this is fire right now. Like, this
literally,
is my final
I looked
four.
around. I was like, I couldn't ask for a better starting room if it was a game in which you needed. Because I came into this going, all right, there's no way I'm making it far in this game, period. And on top of the fact that I'm Nicole Franzel, no way I'm making it far in this game. So I felt like I was like gifted a room of people who would like potentially work with me. And I was like, oh, this is good. But then it ended up being like not a big deal at all. And I immediately started going, oh, okay, so we can accuse people. It doesn't mean that they go. So I can turn on my starting room. Mm-hmm. And my first thought was, all right, well, Black Widow had like the most obvious potentially killer one. So it's probably not her, but just in case it is, like just in your face. And then I was like, wasn't Mr. Green in the movie the killer? Or not the killer, the cop, I mean, and all that kind of stuff. So maybe it's not him because of that, or maybe it is him because of like, so I was having all these moments of like, do the characters have anything to do with it? But
and that's like, I think the other thing is like, I wonder, I guess another question is, how much did you guys think about, obviously at some point Sequester was going to happen, right? Like once you got out the kill, at some point, did you guys think about like keeping your allies, like people you knew would help you in the later game? Like, was that something that did factor into your votes and stuff?
It did for me. I wanted to, from the jump, prove myself to be mostly trustworthy, so that way I could focus more on social. Particularly, I think one thing we haven't addressed was like there was no like LOSs. There was no way to like save yourself. That's like one element I think I would have loved to see tweaked, is like, is there a secret doctor in the cast that's able to like pick one person to save, kind of mafia style? That would have been fun. But also, if you have an LOS and you can play it on yourself to not be murdered, that would have been interesting. But yeah, I purposely was trying to work social throughout the entire game.
Yeah, game mechanic wise, sorry.
Oh, I think that this game was so much more about a social game than strategic game than like regular Sequester. You just had to build relationships with everyone and be like in a decent spot, like relationship wise, with everyone in the cast. Otherwise, I don't know, either you'd get votes put on you or the killer would kill you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I did like seeing that. I felt like, especially those first few rounds were so different from anything we'd seen on Sequester, because people really were like bonding and talking about things and having longer conversations. And it wasn't just running room to room, like trying to save themselves, which was, I don't know, I thought it was refreshing to see in a Sequester atmosphere. People getting to know each other.
I feel like as a first time player that helped me, because some of you already know each other, like Mr. Green and everybody, they know each other outside. So being a first time player, that kind of gave me a little bit of an advantage too, because there weren't LOSs for me to save myself. I could kind of go and talk and get to, like I said at the beginning, get to know those characters to be able to have that social, like, hey, like, you don't know me, but hi, I didn't do it. It wasn't me. Like, please. So I feel like it helped me as a new player, not knowing many people. Like I said, I'm huge fans of all of you. I watched all of you play. I just didn't know. And I knew Julianna coming in, like as soon as I saw her, I was like, oh, hey, Starks played with her. Okay. So I tried, there were a couple times, I think after that first vote that somebody had pushed her and I was like, yeah, I don't know about that. Like, I don't see that connection. So I tried to like defer there, but like I said, I think that really helped me being able to lean on that social aspect a little bit more.
Well, I think the randomness of the first couple rounds just kind of freed you up to be like, well, there's not much you can do to save yourself. So you might as well just use this time to like invest in getting to know people and building working relationships and start to get reads on who is in the game.
And that was the hardest part about my vote out is there was nothing I could do.
I felt like there was even though there was more mental pressure of trying to figure out how to navigate the game, I felt like there was almost a feeling of like relief that's like, it's kind of random. So if I go, I'm not going to have as much of an ego issue as like, why did they vote me out then? It is like, oh, I got killed. All right. Like, oh, I just felt like it made the game more fun and like I could focus more on bonding with people and trying to figure the clues out and all these other kinds of things rather than a regular mini where even though I always go in and I try to just have fun and I very rarely take things personally. I let them just roll off me. There's always an ego factor that plays in, especially when you get freshly eliminated. So I felt like that kind of relief. Did you guys feel that too? Or was there more pressure?
I definitely felt that.
I felt the pressure was off.
I felt like the flip side of it was that because there was little I could do to save myself as well, that I didn't really have much agency in protecting myself in the game. And so that was like the dual thing. I didn't take it as personally when I left, but at the same time, it sucked to feel like I didn't have a lot of control over my fate in the game.
And for me, and I can't speak for Rory, I think the part that sucks is like, and someone said like, what's the difference between what you did and like if you voted in the majority? I think the difference is like we are the personally, like you have someone to blame, like you have someone to personally blame for it. But I think what's fun about this mini was made for bit people. Like this mini was made for you to just have fun, enjoy the ride. Because I think what Beth said is like it kind of was just like you don't know what's going to happen. You're just kind of like, obviously you are trying to do things, but it's also like, hey, let's just good times roll kind of thing. Yeah. And I wanted to say too, is like a little sidetrack and we can go, I want to continue with the stop for everyone else, but like, I think what you guys said about this being a social game, like it genuinely is. And I think that shows in the winner. Like I think Julianna, and I've said this to her and I've said this on podcasts about her. I think she's one of the best one-on-one talkers of all time. She makes you feel so connected to her. And I think that really worked well in this game where like in the game, she made me, I think Rory can attest too. I didn't feel like I wanted to go after Julianna because she made me feel good about our relationship. And I think she did that with all of you guys. Like, I don't want to speak for you guys, but I think she did a really good job of like making people feel connected to her.
Yeah. I think in this game, go ahead. I think in this game, the social and strategic were like essentially the same thing because the best way to protect yourself from being killed was to be on the good side of the killer, whether or not you knew who they were. So it was important to try and build as many relationships as possible to insulate yourself. And then second of all, just trying to like balance how much suspicion you wanted on yourself. Because when I first heard the purple thing, I was like, oh no, there's suspicion on me. And then I realized that could be a good way to protect myself. Exactly. That if the killer heard that purple was out there, that I could be a shield and that they wouldn't want to kill me. So it was kind of trying to figure out like, what is the social strategy here? And it was definitely like both at the same time.
Well, and someone said when I got voted out, like someone said at some point that I was just playing under the radar, and that's why the target kind of got put on me. And I was like, I'm okay with that. Like, I feel like that's kind of a compliment. So I'm okay with like, that's why I went. Like, cool, no big deal. And like I said, even though there are people to blame, I don't blame you. Like, I would have done the same thing. I really appreciated, like, that's why. And it was more of a compliment than, oh, she's a terrible player, like, or, oh, she's, she made me mad. Like, so I feel like,
there wasn't anything that you did or didn't do in that.
Right.
Actually, your elimination was the one that you had the least control out of everybody, because it was like a council got together and said, hey, everybody in the game, this is the person we're going for. Oh, now they're dead. Like, I mean, I could, like, you literally, I was sad I never got in a room with you.
I didn't get to talk to you at all.
I got in a room with Eli right before he got eliminated, and that was it. Like, it was sad.
This was like essentially applying Mafia to a long form format, and I think, like, I've watched, I was about to call you Beth, but then I looked at your name and it said Nicole. I was like, wait a second. But Beth, like, I've watched you play Mafia with Dylan on his stream before. And I think maybe something that might have been lost a little bit is that part of the fun of Mafia is that if you get eliminated early, you get to play again in like 10 to 15 minutes. But in this, if you're eliminated early, that's it. And so I think that was where the challenge were, like, a lot balanced with ways to protect yourself. Like, for this again moving forward is definitely like the thing that I think would need to be introduced to make it a little more.
I think she just wanted to balance for the kill. Like, she wanted to give the killers a chance. And I think if she does this again, almost like, I think the killers should sign up for it and like know that, like, most likely you're not going to win, but you're here for the good times. Like, almost like when she does like the mole thing, right? Where it's like Lana knows that she's not playing, right? Like, it's just like a random thing that, like, it should be like that, where it's like this person knows going in, they're not. Because, like, I think with that she didn't want to protect you guys, because, like, then that gives us, we maybe had like a 1 to 5% chance of winning. If you give you guys protection, we have a 0. Like, there is no chance for us at all.
That's true.
When I applied, I almost put in the email, like, if there's a killer, pick me. Like, would love to do it.
And I had fun playing. Like, I don't want to like seem like I'm down on being the killer. It was a good time. Like, it was fun, but it was like, because it's like, all the information, right? Like, I was able, like, in the way that Beth is like, everything felt cool. It's like, for me, it did too. Like, it was like, cool. Like, I don't have to worry about dying. Like, when I got saved, when Brad gave me safety, which I felt really bad about, I was like, thanks, Brad. I definitely won't die this round.
Yeah, it was, I think I didn't realize that it was so polarizing, because when I was playing, I was having such a blast. I was like, the audience must love this because I'm having a blast. It seems like everyone around me is having a blast in the game. And I think that that's the most important thing to reflect on. I've now made a couple posts about this, but at the end of any sequester game, it should be about having fun. And I think the number one thing I'm taking away from this game is that there was limited to no drama in this. This was straight up fun. Nothing was personal. This was absolutely, we all come in, we have a blast, and we are ridiculous in our characters. And there's just like, it was so silly that you couldn't help but have fun. And I think anybody who was a critic last night, you're obviously entitled to your opinions, but I also want you, and I think feedback's always important, but I also want to just like reiterate, like, if the players are having fun and you're also trying to figure out what the clues are and all that kind of stuff there, like, there's a level of investment there that you have to also reflect on and go, well, this wasn't straight up sequester the way that we're used to it, but why is that a bad thing? Like, it would have been great to play. It would have been nice if, like, for some people, I guess, to say, like, this isn't going to be a normal game, but I kind of thought we were given that within the clues of the email and the communications of, like, this is a murder mystery. It's, it's going to be a different thing and, like, all this kind of thing. So I just generally felt like if we're having fun, then sequester made its goal happen.
I wasn't mad at it as a first-time player at all. Wasn't mad at it. It was fun.
I want to add on to that, and I think that, sequester is supposed to be this like fun distraction for all of us, and I mean, it's just a one-night thing, and I think if you're not having fun playing, then it's not worth playing at all. And I honestly really love it when Audrey, errs on the side of the game being goofier and sillier, because I think if you take it too seriously, it just it kills the game, and I think it's important to like have some perspective.
That is absolutely it. Matt, I'm sorry. I'm just going to quickly add on to that. Matt Henning tweeted last night. I think we as a community have become so focused on winning, and it's just about the win and getting to the end, and your worth is like even though we preach like your worth is not your placement in a game and that kind of thing, it feels like empty words to some people. This was a game that was not about winning. Like I was just having fun, and I just really hope that people understand that, like, when you play or if you watch and you're not having fun, like, then what's the point? And sorry, I cut off somebody.
And that's not to say I definitely played to win last night. Like, I still will always like go hard and like try to win, but I also will always make sure I'm having fun in the game.
So
go ahead, yeah.
My thing is I was in the camp of someone who would have preferred more innocuous heads up of saying, hey, we're trying something different from the regular Patron game this week. It's still going to be a lot of fun, but just a heads up. I feel like an innocuous way of saying this is going to be different, but not having to give away, the whole mechanics of everything would have allowed people more of a choice to decide if they wanted, if they were looking for that sequester formula and how the game mechanics are regularly structured, an opportunity to go for that, because this was my 20th time applying, and I'd been applying since June because I wanted to play the sequester formula again. I fully support Audrey in the decision to expand the idea of what can operate under the sequester brand. But had I known in advance that this was going to be an experiment to do that, I probably would have opted out, because I was really just looking forward to playing that sequester formula again. And this was something where the game mechanics were nothing like we've seen before, where themes like Night of the Living Dead, Emo Night, Christmas in July, those were billed as themes in the same way this was, but those were still operating under the sequester formula and game mechanics.
I think that's a fair point. Absolutely.
Yeah, and my hope would be, and I said this, like, my hope would be that Audrey, and I know she would, like, she will bring people back to play, like, who were slighted by this and didn't necessarily want to partake in this. Like, they will be given an opportunity at, like, not 20 times from now, I would think.
And I think she said on my question last night that she makes, like, she recognizes it and she tested something. But yeah, and I think I do want to say too is, like, for me, like, I hope I'm not coming off too. I think for the most part, the positivity from this mini outweighs the negative. I actually think a lot of, like, I was reading back the YouTube and everything, people were engaged. I think this is honestly probably the most engaged people were in, because it was such a captivating, like, everything about this mini was very captivating. And I think on rewatches, people are going to go, there's so many iconic moments. Like, we talk about the hair moment, or like Mr. Green's, like, the big, like, there's so many moments where people just made revelations that I think this is a gem of a mini. And I think, like, it's going to go down, and, like, I think it's going to be rememberable. And I think, like that, I think needs to be held. But I do think, like, obviously I understand people's, I feel like
my goal in talking about my experience is just to put it out there that in the future, that this kind of thing be provided, so that there is a little more head warning, so that people can have their expectations prepared more so. Because I fully got the sense, like, oh, this must be really fun to watch right now, because this is the kind of thing that I know that I would be having so much fun if I was watching myself. So, like,
and I agree with that. That's what I was just going to say, is, like, I agree with what you're saying. I think, like, I actually agree with, I wish I would have known, because for me, I genuinely, like, I haven't played in a Patron in a little bit. Like, obviously I played in some privates, but I was like, this is, like, I want to play Sequester. Obviously I had, like I said, I had to change my mindset, and I have no regrets of being the killer. It was so fun to play with Rory and be the killer with him, and, like, and just play this game. I do think I understand why she didn't, like, when she talked about it, she wanted to keep, she was afraid of people leaking everything. I get that, but I do think, like, as players, it's like, we are putting ourselves at your will, and it's like, I think there is a sense of, like, we should know what we're signing up for. But I guess, do we have that right? I guess that is the question, right? It's like, I think that's, like, what we need to, what we as a community, like, or as production needs to decide is, like, I guess they're giving us an opportunity to show ourselves. And so do we have the right to know everything,
Something I really love about Audrey is that it's very easy to create a community. It's very difficult to take ownership of it, because taking ownership of it, like Audrey does, is taking accountability for the people in it and the ways that the community affects them personally, because it's exposing yourself to a lot of potential pain and hurt feelings from others, which makes it very difficult to manage what you have going on in your own life. It can be very hard to separate that. I really value that Audrey is someone who actually takes ownership of it, because it's a very difficult task. And I just wanted to like put that out there, because I know that Audrey will listen to feedback, and it is difficult to, in the moment, to have to separate herself from pure hardcore negativity that's being directed. But I love that she is someone who steps up to that plate and says, I'm going to do this difficult task because this is something that means a lot to me and I want to do it.
And for me, I just feel like Friday nights are like is big football game. Like it's where everybody's watching. And like as a viewer and as a fan, because everyone ultimately is a huge fan of Sequester. That's why we're embedded in this tight-knit community. Like I want to go into every Friday, Saturday night to be surprised, to be engaged. And when it's the same mini over and over, that's when things get stale. And so like I just love the experimentation. We got to try some things out to find out what does work and what doesn't work. And hey, we learned some things tonight or last night, and I think it's a better product. And I mean, tonight's going to be even more fun. So
I'm interested to see what the twist is, because I think a lot of people go, "Oh, Beth, you're on production, you know everything." I literally know nothing. Like my job is to like look at the community and how can I help it, and I'm not involved in twists or formats or anything like that. I've actually submitted quite a few of my own ideas. Like, wouldn't it be great if we did this? And it's just like, yeah, Beth. Okay, great.
Let's go back to the community.
Go back to your Sequester spotlight. Okay. But I think that we cannot remain the same exact game, because think about it. We already know what our strategies are going in for every single round, right? My strategy normally for the highest even number of votes was completely thrown out the window last night, because I was like, well, we're accusing somebody, we're not voting somebody out. So like when you throw little wrenches into that, it makes people have to think and do mental gymnastics in a way that they normally wouldn't have to do if you already know how the rounds are going to go, even if there's like slight changes here and there. When the format changes slightly, it reinvigorates the game. And it reinvigorates the way people think about playing the game. And ultimately, if you're somebody who's up for that challenge, there's nothing better. Like last night, I had more fun because, and I'm a Ravenclaw, I'll put it out there. So I love having to think creatively and all that stuff. But I literally was like, ooh, I'm such a nerd because I love that I have to think. Like this is like in a way that I hadn't had to think before. So
see, this is the worst for me as a Hufflepuff.
Yeah, I think something that was really fun about this game is that it was just so different from like the regular like mini formula, that we all kind of got to figure out in the middle of the game how we were going to play. And I think that was something that was like really fun, was like discovering like, or realizing like, oh, this is what I should do. Like, I think at the beginning of round 3, I realized that like, oh, you do not want to get like votes put on you. So now my mission in the game is to throw out as many names as possible and make sure it's anybody but me.
Yeah, and I mean, Audrey does say, trust us, trust no one, right? It's like, I think the game will complete, and I think maybe this is a warning to people, as like, when you sign up, you don't know what's going to happen. It's like, as much as I do think we should have been informed, I do think maybe this is a lesson, just go in, not know, like sign up, and it may not be regular Sequester, you know, because it's like, we don't, like, at the end of the day, I do think there is a part that she doesn't owe us that, but it's like, I go back and forth, and I have my opinions on it, but I also am trying to, you know, be like devil's advocate on everything. So,
and I was going to say, to further on the devil's advocate thing, people didn't know what Wheel of Doom was going to be before the first one. So in a way, like, yeah, we were blindsided by the twist, but also the name should have maybe.
For Wheel of Doom, it's just a different way to select the round twist every time, where this was entirely different game mechanics. So that's my sort of point.
Fair.
Yeah.
Just thankful it wasn't Mystery Date.
Yeah, and
I was excited for Mystery Date.
Yeah, well, that would have been my game. I love getting matched up with people in the context of a game. Holy crap!
Well, like I said, as a new player, I think in a way, not knowing changed the way I played, like Beth said, in the moment. I went in thinking, okay, this is how Sequesters play. But I also think it really helped me as a first-time player because I got to lean on getting to know you guys, especially with it as known cast as you all are. So I see both sides, like Dad and Rory said, like I see both sides from. I mean, a little bit more heads up, yes, but I still think it was really fun and helpful.
I was gonna say, like, I was, pretty one-sided last night, just in the terms that I felt it was a good idea and I liked it. I do now. I mean, I see the point that if you applied a lot and you were expecting one thing, you could be disappointed by it. Like in my position, if I was playing, like maybe I would have been a tad disappointed too if I hadn't played Sequester in a long time and I was waiting for it. Like I do get that. I'm just always looking at it from the side of I want Sequester to grow. Like that is always my biggest concern, is that I want it to grow as big as it can be. And I just know in order to do that, we're going to need fresh things and we're going to have to take risks that at times may disappoint some people and that may not work, but that's the only way that we can keep it fresh and find out what does work in terms of making this bigger. Because, honestly, like was already said, I mean, you can only watch the same mini so many times, right? Like you got to keep it fresh. That's how any reality show has lasted for as long as it has, is you keep reinventing the formula. So I feel like Audrey has to keep taking these risks and seeing what pays off, and who knows what could come from it if you really hit the jackpot on one of them. Like it could change everything. So I feel like innovation is good, but I can also see the other side now as to why some players in the game would be disappointed by it.
Listen, innovation is good and it's not always better. That's the thing. Like you take shows like Big Brother that just doesn't innovate at all, and we just get mad over and over and over. And then you get shows like Survivor where you're like, that was a really stupid twist or format. I didn't like Edge of Extinction or whatever. But you know what? At least it was something new and it changed the dynamics of the game. And then you live and move on to something else. And then Winners at War comes along and they put it back and you're like, why? But I mean, but they try to tweak it and they try to do different things. And this is why I personally like Survivor way better than Big Brother, because they aren't afraid to take twists and changes and acknowledge where there are things that went right, things that went wrong. They listen to the audience. And if there's one thing that Audrey does really well, is that she takes feedback so incredibly well. But I will say this, there's a way to give critique, and I'm just going to put this out there generally, that is constructive rather than just being like shitting on Audrey or production. Like some of the comments I went back and I read last night, I was like, do you think this is productive in any way? It would have been way better for you to say, I wasn't a big fan of this twist. Here are the reasons why. Good job to all the players who played. Like, there's a way to do that. And I just encourage anybody, whether you're standing up and defending Audrey or if you're critiquing the twists, the gameplay, production, whatever, remember that you need it to be productive in what you're saying. And it's not productive if it's coming from a place of hate.
Yeah.
Agreed. So let's push forward on this. Yeah, I mean, we're not going to go through every round. I feel like there's not, but I do want to talk about like the middle stages as a whole, just in terms of how things went down and how people got eliminated. I feel like for a while there, Black Widow and Mr. Green were out there just because of their intro videos and kind of clues that happened in regards to the videos, and they're showing certain things. Did anybody pick up on that? Did you feel, Dan, at any point that you were getting a lot of traction?
I had no idea. I couldn't. There was like no moving around in the game. I thought, for me, I just felt like I was in one room a lot of times. So I didn't hear my name really ever. So that's surprising.
I tried to tell you right at the end of the round that I was in a room with just Black Widow, and I knew her name was the one that was going around the most, and I needed to pitch somebody else that I knew potentially might be getting votes. So I was just like, Mr. Green, because he was in the movie Clue. And I tried to let you know ahead of time.
You did say that. You did say that.
But I wanted to do that just so you knew that, like, I wasn't trying to lie or be like two-faced. I honestly was just trying to, but then the round ended and we never talked about it again.
And then I think I got ultra paranoid and I was like, I think it's Franzel.
Well, that's why that council round was so weird, because I was in the room with you guys, and I knew I didn't want to go to the council. I when I saw Rory there, I'm like, oh, good luck, buddy, because I'm like, I as a killer, I didn't know if we had a vote. I didn't know how it was gonna work, so I was like, I just didn't want to be a part of that. But I think it was weird because it was like Mr. Green and Nicole were like at a standoff, because it's like they both like Mr. Green wanted to go to the council, but Nicole just told Mr. Green that she said her. So it was like a weird situation where it was like, do we send Mr. Green? And I'm like trying to build trust. So I'm like, Mr. Green, let's do it. And like it was a weird moment.
I wanted to be on the council. I've actually never seen the council played. That's like one twist I think I missed. So I didn't exactly know how to game it, but figured being on the council just like could build win equity if and when I got towards the end. Is like, hey, I made a decision, and so I was just gonna always try and advocate to be on the council.
So who, like, because I obviously wasn't a part of the council, like, did you guys get intel for me to go, like, or was it really just, oh, she's under the radar, so we're just gonna go like with that?
I knew I intentionally took a backseat when I was there, because I was like, neither of the other two ladies in my room wanted to go, so I was just like, okay, fine, I'll go, because I can have a moment in character. And then, but otherwise I was like, I'm just going to sit back. I'm going to shut up and get as much suspicion off me, because I know it looks hella shady that I'm now one of 5 people in this room.
I expected the killer to be there, which is why I did not volunteer to go there. So
I did
E.T.
too.
went, I was like, E.T., go on down. Like, have fun. Like, do whatever you want.
If I wouldn't have gotten killed, I would have started pushing one of the 5 people on the council, because then I would have been like, see, it wasn't me. Okay, somebody on that council is the killer. And so I probably would have started pushing.
This was just a strategic misstep. I was like, I was just like, let's put out agent. Like, I don't think we had really connected. So I was like, at a bare minimum, like, let's find out something about the agent. And then if the agent goes, they go, just because we hadn't connected. So I was like, I don't know if this person's gonna vouch for me. But then I was like, okay, the killer killed the agent. Everyone on the council must be safe. So Rory was immediately safe in my eyes. Plus, Rory, your commitment to the bit was just unparalleled.
What bit?
And I was like, I refuse to vote out anyone who is like super committed to a bit.
Oh, 100%.
What, Mr. Green?
Well, until I didn't vote you, Dad. I voted Oprah.
Oh, you're right. Okay.
The most important thing from last night, will the judge come back at any point? Because I would love to see the judge play a normal Sequester Patron
I would love
Mini.
that. So
Amazing.
I mean, finding out I was the killer, like, before, like, I kind of knew when I sent in the video, I'm like, because I had to do 12 takes, and because half of my mom just started fucking laughing halfway. Like, I was like, Mom, you can't laugh, but thank you. I know I'm funny. So I was just like, I'm going in to have fun. I know I'm not going to be taken seriously. We're just going to have a good time. And then I'm like, oh shit. It honestly didn't change my strategy. I'm like, if you are the killer for Murder Mystery 2, my advice is play it like you are a player, because then people aren't going to be like, well, they're actually trying to figure this out. So it depends. It depends on if he gets a call. And by the way, like, I genuinely needed this to hear. This is an ox. This literally was my speaker last night. So that's why I was so committed to the bit.
I was like, his hand must get, or his arm must be getting tired.
There's at one point, it's just like, yeah, oh. Yeah.
I love it.
It was.
I know, but it's like I feel bad for Dad and Judge, because I feel like if we ever play as like it's like, but you played the killer in that one many years ago. Like,
I just played off his Alzheimer's. I'm good.
Yeah, because I love Dad too. Like, Dad is one of my favorite characters I've ever played as. Like, it was fun to be Dad. But yeah, is there any other like votes in the before? Because I feel like we should kill off Dad or send Dad to jail. Is there any other boats like before Dad was discovered that we feel like was big news? Like, obviously all the boats were big news, but you know what I'm saying, like any iconic moments you can think of in that early part.
Dad, I just had a question for you. I felt like you were running away from me. The
I
first
wasn't, and
couple
I
rounds.
knew you thought that. I specifically. There was a third time that we ended up together. I'm like, I have to stay here now because I'm like, I know that if I keep going, Marg is gonna be like, Aunt Peggy's gonna be like, Dad's running from Aunt Peggy.
Because I felt like our characters were pretty similar, that we could easily be like lumped together. So I didn't think it was good for us to be in the same room. And I thought I was curious if you had a similar thought.
I did. I also knew that we were like, yeah. I felt okay with I felt like we would be lumped together, and like part of me didn't want to get into a room with you because I thought the bit would be funny of us in a room together. So there was I was mixed feelings. I'm like, oh, yeah. I do want to get into a room with them, but I also was like, I also in my head was like, but you also just caught me at times where I'm like, I've literally been in this room for like 10 minutes. I just have to go. Like multiple.
I felt like I kept hopping, like I was trying to move around a lot, and I kept hopping to the same room that you were hopping to, and it was just funny because I was like, yeah, we shouldn't be in the same place, but it was just funny.
I thought you were gonna get sus with me because I kept hopping.
I mean,
well, it was interesting too because Aunt Peggy at no point really had any traction to be the killer. Nobody thought it until Dad was revealed, and then immediately everybody was like, oh, it's Aunt Peggy. Clearly this is a family run thing. Like it's just a family of serial killers, and Oprah's running all of it.
Aunt Peggy was supposed to be the babysitter.
Oh, I was planning to have a confessional where I was going to be like, ha ha ha, I killed production like before the game, but then I found out the twist and I was like, oh, I can't do that.
Imagine someone walking in and be like, well, that was easy.
Yeah.
I appreciate you guys having me, but I'm gonna head out.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for having me and letting me play with you guys. You're
It was so
awesome.
much fun. I wish I had gotten to play with you more, but
Follow this Twitter. All right.
Yeah.
Follow me.
All right. And so that one other thing I wanted to comment on before we get to the next portion was Lauren actually getting to play as Gizmo for the entire time, and the elimination that revealed the face paint. I don't know if all of you saw that, but
I
the
didn't
face
see
paint
that.
was incredible. That was underneath the mask the entire time. And the big, long, dramatic death scene. If you haven't seen it, go back and watch it.
Yeah.
It was fantastic.
I was so emotionally overwhelmed by that.
All the characters early on. I mean, I thought Astronaut was a good game. I thought like Ace was so like there was. I don't think there was a single character I was like I get why everyone was cast for this mini. Like it was like everyone was just on fire with their bits.
So let's talk about the elimination of Dad and how that came to be. So, Mr. Green, Dan,
we have some questions about this too, to be honest, as a group.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like you were so adamant to everyone, like, we have to vote now. There's not going to be a later. We all vote now. And I clocked it. I thought, you're going to vote later. Like, you want all the control. You want to be the one deciding the vote. Was that your plan all along?
Exactly. I was like, if we can put it all on one person, we'll clear that person, and then I will have an opportunity to have a smaller pool to kind of coalesce around. I didn't have a guess on who that next person would be, but I knew I wanted the later vote. So I got pretty much everyone, I guess, except for two people to not vote, or to vote, rather. So then it was me, Prince, and Dad in a room. And Prince and I were like, we have votes. Dad's like, all right, like, we're good. We think I think we said it was Cheetah. So we're going to go Cheetah. Dad, can you find the third vote for us? And we sent Dad out of the room.
And I was looking for that vote.
And once Dad left.
Gizmo, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, once Dad left.
Someone was claiming, there's 4 people claiming that they were.
Yeah, we actually, as a group, don't know how Dad got voted out there. As we went back and looked, it doesn't look like there was 3 votes. There was 4 votes, and it would have been a tie. And it because 2 votes were actually put on Socialite that time, not Dad. So we're confused how Dad got eliminated.
Didn't Audrey say that there was 3 votes? 3 people didn't vote.
Is claiming that
right, but I know.
But 4 people are claiming that they voted that round, and 2 of them are saying that they voted Socialite.
Well,
and
I'm
the
pretty
game's
sure
over. Yeah.
Prince said that they did not vote and voted with me for Dad. So
I think what happened was someone voted twice, or at least it was presumed they voted twice. So they thought they had the later vote, but they didn't. That's my guess.
Oh, and they voted for Socialite, and I know Gizmo voted
count.
for Socialite. So, and then they had saved their vote.
My guess is like I genuinely was supposed to go home. There was 3 votes. I think just the fourth person thinks that they also had a vote.
That makes
they
sense.
They genuinely
makes
do
sense.
think so.
That makes sense because we got in our group chat. We were talking about it. We were like, oh no, was this a whole lie the whole time? Was Audrey throwing us a bone saying, all right, Dad, just get out of here.
Because if I get through that, I think I'm good for a little bit of time after that.
I
if
agree.
I can get through that.
Yeah.
That later round. But yeah, no, I knew Mr. Green was so the round right before that we were like planning on voting, like it was between Mr. Green and Alien. And the next we literally voted Mr. Green to die that later round. But obviously he killed me before we could. And so that's why I'm not too upset because I was going for at that point I had to get rid of him. But I knew he got sus of me, and when I don't think he was sus of me yet, but I felt it because he was like, "Hey, leave the room, like go do it," and I'm like, he just like I'm like it made me nervous, but I was like I really was trying to push like I trust you guys, like Mr. Green, we're good, like come on, buddy, but. I mean, they got me. And I knew, like right when she was, because we sent our vote in, and she was like, "Thanks," and I'm like, "This isn't how you're responding." I'm like, "This isn't good for us." I was like, "I know what's happening here."
yeah. So once Dad left the room, I was like, "The baby's purple," and now that I know that purple had nothing to do with it, I think it makes it even better.
That should, we all go by, dates for the minis or themes for the mini. The mini should just be known as the baby is purple mini.
The baby is purple mini.
Yeah, that's a shout that out.
And then Giovanni was like, "Oh, and Oprah is in the movie The
Color's purple. The color purple.
The color
And I think
purple.
that's what's so funny is like going back, it's gonna be so funny in a rewatch how crazy we got. We all went down so many rabbit holes. Like I was like obviously I knew so, but I was still like trying to make everyone seem crazy. I'm like, well, the alien's green and the LOS is green, so obviously that's a clue to the alien. And then someone's like, but Mr. Green is also green. I'm like, yeah, but the alien.
In the round,
in the hair. She mentioned hair. What would kill somebody with hair? Like
in the round I went, I just kept shouting, "Why the fuck is the cheetah purple?" That was like my why the fuck is the cheetah purple?
And I was like, people are going to think it's me because of a plow and I was on a tractor.
I was the one who was pushing that narrative.
Yeah, I was like, there's gasoline in this first death, and Mallory got hit by a car. So I was like, it's either the astronaut or Nicole Franzel because they both are like working with vehicles.
And what's funny is I think without those clues, it kind of would have been a pretty boring moment because I don't think we needed something to go off of.
Right.
And I think it's funny that like in order to push, this is at the end of the day, we're trying to tell a story. We're trying to be entertaining. And I think I don't think she even thought that we were going to read into the clues, but I think it's just genius that it did work out that way because I think it pushed the game and kept it exciting because it was every time now the audience is trying to think about the clues. Like everyone's focused on this thing that's not a thing.
It was great.
It was. So
then the accomplice reveal.
Yeah, so that was the next thing. So then it was revealed, and I think that was one of the most shocking moments for everyone, that there was a second person involved. So I guess, from what we learned afterwards, you were both the murderer, and basically whoever went first was going to be known as the murderer, and whoever lasted longer would be the accomplice, pretty much. So it could have been vice versa.
I do want to say, too, she actually slipped. And I don't know if anyone else... She said, the killers at some point. And I'm like, Audrey, what are you doing? But I don't think anyone clocked it / it didn't get brought up.
I was with you, Beth, I think, in the room when that happened. And we asked, and I think Ahmad came and quickly said, "Oh, she just made a mistake." I think that's what happened.
I was so confused. And that wasn't even me being a Nicole bit. I literally was like, I don't know what's going on. What's happening?
I need to hear Nicole. I just want a recording of Beth doing Nicole for just so I can listen to when I need to be happy.
I had people asking if I'd set up a cameo as Nicole Franzel. And I was like, could you imagine?
But yeah, no, the accomplice thing was great. And what were your guys' thoughts on when that was revealed? When I got sent to jail, what was your thoughts there? How did you're like, oh, finally we'll get to play the game. And then what were your thoughts then with knowing there was an accomplice, that the killer was still out there?
So I was convinced from the jump that if there was one killer, it was going to be someone who has like experience playing Sequester and navigating the game. So that's why I was kind of susceptible, like thinking might have been Nicole, it could have been Black Widow from the beginning. And then when it was revealed that there was a second, I was like, oh, maybe they're going to bring someone who maybe is not as well known in the community, because just to even it out. So I really thought it was E.T. E.T. was like having some really bad tech challenges on the YouTube, and I think we all were, but they ended up like needing to be explained, like the rules explained to them. So I thought they were just keeping me in a room, unable to strategize for like an entire round. And I was like, that's a perfect killer strategy. Just to waste my time.
That was a theory I had. I mean, I basically guessed everyone. I was terrible. I thought everybody was a killer at some point, but
we all did.
I was like, maybe E.T. is like the best killer of all time, and this is going to be like some huge reveal, because it was like you never would have thought. But then as time went on, you're like, well, they're still there, and it is possible. It was very interesting. There were a lot of suspects. One other thing I did think, when the accomplice came out, how many of you like were still geared in on trying to find him, and how many of you wanted to start just trying to play the game? Because I feel like once that hit, like you needed to play more Sequester-like, because you weren't going to know one way or another what was going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, just because we were never going to find out who the accomplice was, I just kind of switched gears into regular Sequester mode at that point, because I thought, like, if I end up sitting in the end with the killer, like, that's just kind of how it comes out. But the odds are better that I'll get to the end without the killer, so I just have to play that way.
I knew that we got, when Rory left, that we got the judge. That was obviously the accomplice, because there wasn't another person that died there. And so I knew going into the jury that it was just about traditional gameplay, but I also knew that I was in a weird situation where all of a sudden I became a really big target in jury to take out. So I needed to like keep pushing the murder mystery narrative on people in order to try to save myself as a shield going in. And I made a lot of missteps in the jury. But I had to start making that switch about 2 rounds before jury started, in order to just be like, okay, I just have to play Sequester now. But I didn't want it to appear like I was just playing Sequester.
And I think me being the killer hurt you in the sense that like you couldn't use me as a shield. Like you couldn't.
100%.
Yeah.
I think I actually was worried at first when you revealed to be a killer. I'm like, they're going to think the 2 winners are the killers. They're going to come after me even more so than they did. But then I got thinking like, actually, that's really good for me that you were a killer, because if people did assume me, like they've already put so many votes on, like I actually felt like, oh, I'm actually kind of in the clear until we find out who the other accomplice is, which I think people were really focused on for a few rounds. So that bought me a few rounds, but when it came to jury, it did me no favors.
And to be fair, the round that I did leave, I was taking you out because I spent the entire round with the Mad Doctor and with the Queen of Hearts. So I was like, timing impeccable, because otherwise you wouldn't even made it to jury.
Yeah, totally. And I jumped on the fact that I said, we need to think about the judge here. Here's some things that were sus earlier, and nobody has thrown the name out. My name has been thrown out a lot. We need to go for somebody that hasn't had their name go around. And we just did the Aunt Peggy vote the round before, so we knew it wasn't Peggy. And people were thinking Queen of Hearts or Ace. And I was like, but no one has said judge. Let's just do judge, because there's 4 flaps and judge is one of them. And then it worked out that way. And you ended up dragging Ace, which was like the other person that somebody was thinking. So
yeah, I dragged Ace because my thought after I'm out, I'm like, well, my game's done. So what can I do that's maybe going to cause the most paranoia? I'm like, Ace is so under the radar. Maybe it makes sense that it's maybe him, but I wanted people to stay paranoid for a few more rounds just for fun.
Yeah, no, I think that like it kept the twist alive when it could have been completely dead after that, because I do think, because the votes were on you, it was obvious, but it at least let it linger for a couple more rounds, and nothing was concrete, I think, until a round or 2 after that. Because I feel like when Reno went, the doctor, like that was still by proxy of people trying to get out the accomplice, pretty much. Like he fell because of that. And that was because you planted the seeds that they were still out there.
Yeah.
I felt like that round with Reno is when we confirmed that there weren't anyone, the killer and the
And I
accomplice
did
were
like,
gone.
I think it was Dan who brought up like, well, they could have just, the accomplice could have just murdered who was the majority vote in order to keep up appearances. And I was like, yes, I was thinking that, but I didn't think it would be a good character for me to say that. And so I was able to be like, oh my God, you're right. Oh, I didn't even think about that. Like, but I wanted some paranoia because I knew Safety Chain would probably be next, which it was. And I was like, I wanted to try to solidify a bond with Dan because I knew that he'd played a really good game and that we would need each other further into jury. And that's why I was like, I think that Mr. Green's the safest person, so we should give it to Mr. Green. Like I was trying to push that narrative even further then.
So
yeah, I was gonna say I also just wanted to continue to keep the murder mystery thing going because I think people knew that I was safe. So as a result, if we could vote somebody else out and try and get the accomplice, that was going to help me out a few more rounds.
Yeah, because I felt, and like as that happened, I was like, once this turns into regular Sequester, I felt like you were in trouble because you had played such a great game, like figuring things out, that you were immediately going to be the biggest threat in Final 2, that nobody was going to want to go to the end with you.
And I just want to say something for the record, though, too, because I've now been told a few times, like, we can't bring you to the Final 4 because you're a previous winner or, you know, you're a mod or people really like you or whatever the case is. Like, I'm putting this out there for the future. I don't want pity votes in the Final 2 because I have a reputation. I don't want any of that. I want to get votes because I deserve to win. And if you think that I played the best game, great. But I could tell you last night, I think I did some really great game moves. But I honestly, from what I saw, I felt like Dan played a really great game. I thought Jordan had his back up against the wall for a long time. Marg, like best under the radar game that I'd seen. So I really felt like we had a strong jury, but I knew that just like reputation wise, like I was going to need people who were more aggressive in their gameplay. So I was going to need Alona. I was going to need Dan. I was going to need like Jordan. Like I was going to need those people. And I made a misstep personally, and I should have gotten rid of Marg, and I'm really happy I didn't get rid of them. But because obviously you went to like just claw your way to the end, and it was great. But I just generally felt like, okay, this is a hard jury to navigate when you've spent most of the game potentially not working towards this point. So I was just so blown away by how everybody played the jury phase. Like that to me was like hardcore Sequester, and I loved the grit and the fight of everybody.
Yeah, I thought. Go ahead, Tom.
Real quick, I just want to talk about the legacy thing of like, obviously I know right now in the way that Sequester is being played, legacy does matter. I would like to see the shift towards treating it more like a game of Monopoly, right? It's like when I play Monopoly, if I win, it's not brought up in the next game of Monopoly of, well, you did win last time, we probably shouldn't have you win again. I think it's like and I get this is different than Monopoly, right? It's a social game. It's different. But I do think there should be a mindset of vote for me to win for this game. If I have played the best game in this game, then vote for me. Don't vote for me because I won a different. And like for both ways. Don't vote me out because I've won, but don't vote for me to win because I've won too. Vote for me because you think I played the game in this game.
And if there's skills or personality things that you think like are a threat to your game that you've seen in the context of the game, like if you're like, wow, Beth, I like the way that you explain things, but that makes me worried about how you're going to be in a Final 2. Like that's understandable, but I don't like the idea that like I've had people be like, I couldn't bring you to the end, and not just in this game, like in a private mini a couple of months ago, where somebody was like, I can't bring you to the end because you're a previous winner, and I'm like, but what did I do in the game? They're like, well, I don't really know what you did.
I will say I try to view the game as like who, in terms of like who is making me feel good in this game, who wants to work with me, and I feel like that is really what's going to set you up for success in playing Sequester, more so than viewing like the larger meta of the whole community is how do I feel right now tonight, and what is going to work for me tonight.
I think one of the best things about the format of this game was that reputation really didn't seem to make any difference at all. Like new players went early, but also like Ashley Jordan went super early, and she's a big name in this community. And like it did feel like it was a much more even playing field. And like even though like I know that you're a winner, Beth, like when it came to voting you out, I was like, this is why I have to vote out Nicole Franzel, not like this is why I'm gonna stop Beth from getting to the final two.
No. And I want to just, I didn't make this clear. I didn't think that was the case last night, that you guys voted me out because I was winner. That's not at all. I honestly felt like that was the best move for so many people's games. Like, that's totally fine. I just wanted to point that out in general because there were people who messaged me about that last night, and there are all these other things where I was like, I don't think they got rid of me because I'm a winner, but I do want to just put out there like, or like a mod or whatever. Like, I never want to win because of that. So if that's like, I would be the first person in a Final Four, in a Final Two situation to be like, I don't want your vote if you're only going to vote for me because you like what I do for the community. Like, I don't want that.
I think it's really hard to separate our understanding of why someone has been successful in past games when we see them again in a game we're playing, where it's really hard to separate that because you watch them, you as a viewer understand what makes them dangerous and now dangerous to your game. But I think we maybe are starting to move toward the point where we have so many winners from not just patron games, from private games, where being a winner is less of a surefire reason to eliminate someone because it's more common now.
I totally agree with that. And that's what I think is really great. I love that for the private minis and such, that you could potentially be playing a game multiple times a week, depending on if you've played in private minis or maybe you play in a Patron mini or something like that. But I think about this game as playing like a board game with my friends. I sit down. Sometimes I'm really good. Sometimes the cards just don't work in my favor and I get a lot of challenges. Sometimes I have a really lucky streak, and other times I lose big. I've been first boot. I've been a winner. I've been in jury. The only thing I haven't been yet is wheeled out. And you know what? I'm actually kind of welcoming that day whenever that happens. I can just cross everything off the bucket list. But I totally agree with you, Eli. And I think that that's what's nice about this community. I want us to be able to go into each game as that game.
So talking about that round that you went out, which was the bounty round, it seemed like it was going one way for a while and that it was going to be ET. And then Carolanna kind of threw it out that she didn't want to get rid of a new player and kind of put the focus on you. And I think you ended up going out with 4 votes, I believe, right? Was it 4 or?
I think
probably 5.
I think it was 5. Yeah.
I voted back.
I think the only 2, well, I think it was me and Alona that didn't vote.
You were my bounty, but I didn't vote for you that round.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so then it was 4. So yeah, damn, no. Okay, so here's
I really
the thing.
screwed that one up.
I ran out of time. I was about to do the Hail Mary pass for 2 things. One, I was going to tell Jordan and Dan, just so you know, we had there was a room where the doctor went, where it was like 5 of like the women characters were in a room, and we were like, oh, we have majority in the jury, like we need. And then I was like, oh, I'm gonna keep that in the back of my mind, so if there's a case where I need to go and I can get the 2 guys to vote for me, I was gonna say, you guys aren't gonna make it to Final Four. They're gonna try to do like an all like women character like Final Four. And I was going to do that. And then I also was going to I knew that I had Alona's vote, so I didn't need to like really pitch to her like the whole big target thing. But if we could get 4 of us on the same page in that round, we could have gone all the way to Final Four. But I ran out of time to pitch it because they did such a good job, Mark did, and Carolanna did to switch the vote, and it just happened so quickly. And I was trying to formulate, when do I jump in to say this, that I lost my opportunity.
Yeah. As soon as Carolanna said your name, I was like, yes, that is what I want. I'm hopping on this. We're making this happen. And I'm not going to give you a chance to flip this.
You did such a good job.
And I felt really good about Carolanna in the game. We had been like rooms together a few times. So I even gave her safety and safety chain. So I was like locked in with her, and I thought it was both ways. So I was like, all right, like let's continue to sell that through, because I was really hoping for a Final Four of Socialite, myself, Aunt Peggy, and Carolanna.
Because Beth, you really ran that safety chain, and you put me down at the bottom of it, and it was just, I was like,
I didn't think I ran it at all, because I didn't think I was going to get it. I didn't think ET was going to give me the safety. And like, honestly, that was where the beginning of my idiocy began. I really should have gotten rid of you and not Queen, because when I got to the jury, like, Alieska and I were talking, and she was like, I wasn't going to get rid of you. I really wanted to go to the end. I was like, damn it. I was trying to buy favor with you.
I got so lucky.
I know, I was trying to buy favor with you, but I also knew that to help my game, I needed to continue to try to push the murder mystery portion of it. Be like, we don't know, there could be still an accomplice out there, blah blah blah. And I knew that people would be like, well, didn't we clear Aunt Peggy and we haven't cleared Queen, and you're saying that you want. So I got all mixed up in my head. But if I had cut you there, I think it would have been a very different story later. But no, I after you said I ran it, I thought back about it. And I was like, well, I did push for Mr. Green to get it, and then I did somehow get ET to give it to me, so I could definitely see how that came off.
You pushed hard for Mr. Green.
Yep.
So
I was gonna say on the safety chain, I don't know if like outing everybody who they were gonna pass it to helped, but I just wanted to like out people's intentions.
So going to the final 5 vote with the Mr. Green elimination, it kind of, I mean, it was reliant on, I thought that you had the bonds there because I did think that you were close enough to Alona and Carolanna that they would stick with you. What do you think was the deciding factor? Was it the fact that they didn't want to go to the end with you, you think?
I mean, Marg made a great sell. Yeah. I think it was just the kryptonite argument that I just could not really fight against. I mean, I thought I had those strong bonds, but I also thought I was playing a winning game. So I was hoping. I mean, I've gotten Final Four twice and gotten voted out at Final Four for playing strong games. So I was like, oh, it makes sense. Vote me out at 4. But Marg did that.
I was actually trying to get some traction on Julianna that round. Like right at the beginning, I said, oh, Julianna's the only one I can vote for because it was History Can't Repeat. And I could actually vote for her or for Dan. And so, but like no one was on board with Carolanna. She had already like gotten herself in so close with every single one of us that like I saw immediately that I could only vote for Dan. That was my only option.
I would have voted Jules. I would have done it. I would have done anyone but me. But it just, Dan, you seemed like the easiest person to pin the vote on.
I get it. But yeah, it was. I could not. I tried to make the sell, but they weren't buying. Mm-hmm. But I think if I had kept Beth in the game, that would have been really helpful. So I think there was a few strategic missteps on my side, but
I also think that going back to the whole theme of this, we never had an opportunity to really get on the same page to plan for jury like you might be able to do in the pre-jury, like right before jury happens, where you can feel like the bonds that you had in this game, regardless if you felt good or not about people, were a different kind of bond than what we were playing in jury. So that's, I think, why I think the jury phase was so well played last night, was because there was so many people who were just giving it their all in order to stay.
Yeah, I was waiting. I mean, we were saying it early on, like when that flip would switch, like once, the killers were out, like how hard people would start to play. Because you could feel it ramping up that people really wanted to start playing. And then as soon as they could, it was kind of just off to the races and it was playing at full force. Kind of like what we saw in Shadows, like the second half of Shadows, like how hard people played immediately because they were waiting to do it. I feel like it was a very similar feeling.
This is my question. So it sounds like everyone was starting to clock that Carolanna was so connected. When was your guys' plan to like take the shot at her, or was it 4?
I mean, I tried at 6 and then it really didn't have traction, and I'd been with her in the starting room. So I kind of felt like, well, if I can't come for her, my best chance is to try and sit next to her and out-talk her, honestly.
I felt like I couldn't vote her out because she was with me, and I felt like it would be me if I voted her out.
And that's what she's really. When she gets steam, like that's what she does well. So yeah, I was just interested about that because it's like it's hard. Those kind of players are hard because it's like you feel so good that you don't want to turn on them, and it's a good way to.
Yeah. I also think that she was one of the few people I had told that I suspected you, Tommy, and she didn't. I don't think she told you that, that it was me who threw your name out. So I had a lot of trust with her in the game from that.
I also feel like it came into a factor, and this came into the next round, that Alona was there. And I feel like Alona was kind of a shield for her for a large majority of the jury portion, at least. And then it just kind of came to a head in that round, which was one of the few times we've seen a jury vote threatened. I feel like you don't see that as much, but that was the tactic. What did we all think about that vote and how we got there and how we chose?
I think, unfortunately for Ilona, her reputation precedes her, where I just knew she was a super nice person who probably didn't actually mean her threat. So I think it was just that, like, Julianna wasn't going to go with it because I don't think she actually felt like she had lost a jury vote necessarily. I think she still thought that she could fight for it in the end. But I do have to respect Ilona just, like, going for it when clearly it was 4-on-1. She really fought.
I didn't vote her out. I thought it was great
really?
that they were fighting, and I thought it would take heat off of me at the Final Four if she stayed.
From what I've told Marg, I think like that did make a deciding factor where I believe Alona did vote for you.
Interesting. Yeah. I'm also curious how the jury votes broke down, like who Alona did end up voting for, if she ended up voting for Julianna or voted for.
That's what I meant for Marg.
Oh, for Marg. Gotcha. Yeah. So that brought us to Final Four. And it was kind of Aunt Peggy threatening Carolanna and Cheetah threatening Carolanna. And then so it basically threatened by both, but ended up to change it in the... I mean, I feel like ET played a really strong game considering it was a first ever game in Sequester.
And she was like in a mask. Like I don't think she could like see most of the game. It was great.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was really ready to stick with my drag. I thought that they had all three played really good games. Peggy, I knew I wanted you in Final 2 no matter what, because you had been like up against it. You had been at the bottom of safety chain and like somehow you had made it all the way through to the end. So I knew that I wanted you sitting in the Final 2. But I think my mistake was also threatening Julianna. I think I should have threatened ET and seen if I could have just gotten a wheel out of it. But honestly, I think ET like kind of gave up at the end right there. And it was kind of disappointing. I really wanted her to fight for her spot in the Final 2. And that's why I had to drag her.
It reminded me a lot of Lana's very first game where she made it all the way to Final 5. She was having a blast. She was just there to have fun and maybe got like a little overwhelmed when like the final target was placed and said, you know what, it's all good. I've had a great experience. I'm okay with it.
That's literally what happened to me in 8-8, and I really felt for her. So I think she played fantastic.
I think she played really well. I just felt like in comparison to everybody else, she needed the most coaching from other players in the jury phase. And I just felt like I wanted to see two of the other stronger people go to the end, which is why I was happy that Marg and Carolanna went. Like in the round that I went, it turned into like us being like, do you have another name? Here's the reason why I need another name right now. And it ended up being like Julianna taking over to like play ET's game for her. That's what it came off to me as. And then I saw that multiple times and it had nothing to do with like explaining the rules or whatever. It was more about like, and I do think that there's a strategic part to that, but I personally like when players are playing their own game. And I felt like in a Final 2, I was so proud of ET for getting it to Final 4, but I was like, I really can only see myself voting unless she really turns it with a questioning for somebody who I felt like really owned and played their own game.
And that's where I think ET in a future game will be incredible. Because
she's going to be incredible.
What I've heard, ET watched one mini before this. And
wow.
Like,
that's incredible.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's downplaying ET's game, and ET played incredible, but I agree with you. I think Julianna, Carolanna, whatever you want to call it, saw the opportunity, took it, and that shows how strong of a player Carolanna is from playing multiple times. And I think the more ET plays, I think that will come.
I totally agree.
I want to just like take a second. Like Jordan, I thought you played a fantastic game as well. I think your name was out there so many different times and like could have easily been a murder victim. Could have like, I don't know, so many things could have happened. And I think it just speaks to your game. So
absolutely.
I want to make sure.
I agree.
Yeah.
It was a strong Final 4.
Yeah, and I think you did make the right threat because, like you said, I don't know. Judging by what happened when you were doing the drag, I don't know necessarily if ET would have gone along with it anyway. So I feel like you made the best move you could have possibly made there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was tough.
Just getting into the final two a little bit. Marg, what did you think when you got there? Did you think you had a good chance of taking it?
Yeah, I think I played a really like strong game in the jury portion. I think I also like I did a really good job in like the pre-jury, like murder mystery portion of the game, just, you know, moving between rooms a lot and really, you know, doing a lot of good work to keep my name out of people's mouths. So yeah, I tried to fight for it and like own my game as much as I could, which is like not in my personality. So yeah, I just tried my best, and I was really proud of the game that I played.
Marg, I just want to say I loved your final arguments. I went into the final planning to vote for Julianna, and I actually ended up switching my vote to you because you really like nailed how you had gotten through both the early game and the jury phase of the game.
I felt like both parties were so incredibly strong. I was very, very, very undecided, and it really came down for me. It came down to me from what I was able to see in the jury phase. And I felt like you really played very well, but I felt like specifically when it came to ET, that Julianna was playing a game for two almost. And I ended up voting for Julianna because of like what I was seeing her do to like amass the numbers and the support. And I didn't see any way really for her to go. And whereas I felt like there were more opportunities for you. They're both impressive in their own ways. And I sat back and I said, well, which one seemed to have more control? And I felt like I ended up going for Julianna because of that, but it was very difficult. The way that you owned your game, I was like, oh, I wish one of them would just slip up in this final two. So I could be like, oh, well, they didn't answer that correctly. So.
From an audience point of view, I thought at that point, I thought Marg won it in the jury questions.
Mm-hmm.
Like I thought Marg, like Aunt Peggy did incredible in the jury question, and I think the back against the wall, I think it just like it was a really good final, one of the best final twos I've seen. You know,
it was really good.
A few minis, you know, I've been in a few final twos, and that was a final two.
It was really fun because I felt like we both really fought for the win.
Yeah, I went in undecided, but I kind of wanted to judge my like jury vote based on kind of three things: who could answer my question the best, and Marg, I thought you did that the best. I mean, I love the tens, self-given tens on every single one.
Tens across the board.
I loved it. Second is like who voted me out. Like I thought you were responsible for getting me out, and I always just applaud people who can do that. And then the third is just who lived the bit the best. And I thought you were in a rocking chair knitting during breaks. Like I just loved your commitment to the bit. So I had to, my vote went to you, Marg. I thought you played a great game, but Julianna did as well. So
yeah,
I'm team rocking chair for life now. I will never not play a mini.
That's
in a rocking chair.
That's your thing. Everybody needs their thing. That's your thing now. The rocking chair.
Oh man, is my thing going to be a Nicole Franzel voice? Because
absolutely,
I will not play with you if you're not doing Nicole voice. I'll be like, guys, we had to eliminate her first. She's not doing the voice. Do the voice.
I'm damned if I do, damned if I don't in this situation. Yeah.
I need a crock pot. Like I was like, I'm dead. A crock pot in the background. Someone's gonna be upset at me. So
I know when you had a grill in your intro video, I was like, oh, he's shifting.
I just want to be clear. Aunt Peggy, I think there was some confusion last night. Aunt Peggy is an elderly cis woman who uses she, her pronouns. I am a non-binary person. I use they, them pronouns. If you were using she, her last night to refer to me, that is fine. That was my character. It would literally make me so happy, though, if you referred to me using they, them pronouns.
Yes. Thank you very much for clearing that up. I joined Podquester right after I voted, and I saw that there was some confusion on it, and I was making sure to say Peggy goes by she, her, Marg, they, them. So if you're talking about Peggy, she, her is appropriate. If you're talking about Marg, they, them is appropriate. So I
both love rocking chairs, though.
I mean,
I will say, I feel like one of the most important things, and not like overwhelmingly, but I would like it throughout the next year just these characters to make an occasional return, right? Like when you least expect it, one just pops up and you're like, oh, it's the cheetah. Like, you know, we can have a complete other world of these characters where they occasionally
Actually,
pop in.
we haven't brought this up. Can we get into Jordan playing with the mouse toy at any given moment? There were times I looked down because I was like looking at my notes or whatever, and I would look up and he would just have it in his mouth going.
He did multiple. He brought a puppet out. I was like, well, how many
the puppet.
Well, there were 2 puppets. There was a human puppet and a tiger puppet.
We have one more entry into the all puppet mini. We're getting
there. We go. 2 more.
2 more.
Have 2 separate cameras.
You know, Obadi and the puppet mini.
Oh my god.
Actually, yes.
Yes, that'd be great.
100%.
She's not a killer. Wham.
I thought she was the killer.
I mean, yeah, she is. Free Dad.
Dad, I feel like you need to get lawyer as your defender because this is an extreme case of the horrible prison system that we have. The fact that you have a baby in jail with you.
I know that baby is tough up.
Free the baby.
I mean, this is a violation of human rights unparalleled. So
what if Dad comes back, but Dad comes back as like prison Dad? So it's like like face tattoos. Oprah's got face tattoos. We're like,
oh my god, I would die.
There's so much. Actually, Eli, I wanted to comment because I was so thrown off and so happy because I remember that video. You had this character for months, and you finally got to use it.
Just my mind was apparently so powerful that I predicted this months in advance because I filmed this in June. So, like the place I filmed it in, I was told like 2 weeks later that the landlord was selling it. I don't have the job that I had when I filmed that intro video. And my girlfriend who helped me film that video is no longer my girlfriend. She broke up with me. So like it's a completely different person from that time I filmed it. And it was just by pure luck that when I saw the application, I was like, oh, I've already been planning to play as this ridiculous character in the first place. This is just, very serendipitous in that manner.
How did you guys choose your characters? Obviously, that sounds like, because that just got me thinking about it. So Eli sounds like that just was in the can already, good to go. But
I like gimmicks, yeah.
Yeah.
For me, I was between 2. I don't have a ton of. So I used to have a Mama Coco costume, but I threw out the wig because I love Mama Coco from the movie Coco. And I still have the dress, but I don't have the wig weird enough. But I was between the dad because I have a baby doll, and I also have a lot of. Dad is a big joke in my friend group, so like I have a dad. Like my shirt said "Dad Game Strong." I have a hat that say like "Best Dad Ever" or like #1 Dad. So I was like, cool that. And then also I have I have the hot dog costume, and I also it was from a Halloween costume where I was the Snapchat hot dog filter. So I had like the green headphones and everything too. So I was like, I could go as the Snapchat hot dog, but I just was a hot dog for private winners at war. So I'm like,
I'm like, let me be a hot dog too much. That's overdoing it.
Too much hot dog, too much meat.
Yeah, it makes you quite a wiener to do that.
Oh,
I wanted to be the wiener in that game.
I've been meaning to apply for Patron Minis for a long time, and then I just saw the theme, and I was like, I bet not as many people will apply for a costume one. So I literally walked into my closet, and I was like, what do I have? Oh, I've got a cheetah print shirt. All right, we're going to work with it.
I loved it.
My person was developed all around these glasses that I have. I have this other alter ego named Party Peg that I have with some friends, and I have the glasses literally tattooed on my arm. So these glasses have been around for a while, and I thought, and I'm named after my great Aunt Margaret. So I was like, Aunt Peggy, it'll be fun.
Could Aunt Peggy become Party Peg, but in Aunt Peggy?
Definitely.
Oh my god.
Oh, we have a guest, by the way.
You guys were playing characters? What?
No, I wasn't playing a character. I just literally left the Big Brother house, and they said, Nicole, we're going to give you free access to talk to your family, and it was a trap.
Howdy ho, neighbors. Judge, how's jail?
Oh, what? I'm not in jail. I'm still where I was last night. They haven't caught me yet. I'm old, but I'm quick.
Oh my god, I can't deal.
I can't. I'm so happy. Here's the thing. This mini is going to be remembered for ages. Like, this one is not going to be forgotten by any means. And I feel like we will be referring to it in every other mini from now on. Like, we will remember these characters.
I think that's the thing we can all live with is like, yeah, this mini is, you are not going to forget Murder Mystery. And you're not going to forget this cast. I think someone said it, they're like, in like a couple months, they should just do a mini with this cast. Because like, I do want to preface, like when I saw this cast, I was like, I said, someone called me out on it. In mid-game, I was like, I'm so excited for this group chat. Because I was like,
I was like, who are some of you? Because I don't even know. But
that's how I felt. And I'm like there's some people, half the reason I play minis is to make friends with these. Like there's a lot of people in this chat that, there's some people that I have talked to before, but there's some people like, I've never talked to Beth, and I was so excited to like be like, I've always been a fan of Beth, so I was like, I'm excited to get to talk to Beth. The fact that Rory's now like I'm indebted to Rory. Like the judge is like my favorite person in the world because like we were still like I literally would send him Skypes. He would be all business. I'd be here like, Rory, I'm like, this is great. Like we're just so on key. And he's like, yeah, we're doing this. We're killing this person right now. I'm like I do want. I think like, not that I'm putting on him in a bad way, but in a good way. Like Rory was 100% in all the killings that like Rory deserves the killing just as much as Dad does. Like the judge was just as intelligent about the killings and so strategic about how he decided to do it.
I love that.
Absolutely. Well, on that note, we'll show everyone's Twitter on what was a phenomenal night, another phenomenal night of Sequester. We will be back again in a couple hours. What do we got? Like maybe 4 hours for what's it? Frankenquester.
Frankfurter Quester.
Frankenquester. So we'll see.
Wait, are you gonna be playing as a hot dog again tonight? If it's Frankfurter
Quester, back, baby.
I'm very excited to see what ridiculous twists they have cooked up. I feel like Saturdays are always so complicated. So I feel like anybody playing tonight has to be ready to have their strategic mind ready. So we will be back for that. Thank you, all of you, for joining us. Thank you to everybody in the chat. And until a few hours from now, everyone, we will see you out there. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.